So turns out I was right. My hair is weird. Okay, apparently the cops were lying to everyone and told everyone that I was a sex offender. And the reason why they were doing this was because they thought they could get me convicted for a crime, so I'd be a felon, so they can keep all the stuff they stolen from me. So in the case that I sued them for it, I'd been unreliable witness or something. Something they cooked up from watching too much TV, daytime soap operas or whatever. And then also they were trying to help out Tiffany by saying, oh, now you know what it's like to be in Tiffany's position where she's a registered sex offender and you know how people treat her. And I'm like, why do I need to know that? Right? And it's like, they thought it was a funny joke because they're like, haha, isn't it funny? It's a joke because like you're not an actual sex offender, but everybody believes us because we're police, and there's no reason for the police to like lie to everyone unless we were all crazy. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, oh, how come like you're not coming to the department and like having to sue us and like lying to us or yelling at us back? And I'm like, because you're crazy. You just told me that you're crazy. You told me that only crazy people would do that, and you're doing that thing that you said the crazy person is doing. So you're a crazy person. Even if I came to talk to you, nothing would change because you're crazy. I can't talk sense into you because you're a crazy person. And they didn't really get this. And then now, like, because they lied to all the shelter staff and the Knott family were involved because obviously they thought that I was a bad person since I'm just a foster kid and their kids are actually fucked up from their abuse. They were trying to say that I was actually also a sex offender, and I don't know why everyone believed it. To be honest, anybody who actually believed them were either seriously inbred or moronic. That's the only types of people that believe them, and I didn't know that was literally everybody in Canada except me. So I'm like, wow. And now they're like embarrassed and they're trying to apologize to me. Can you believe that? They have the gall to come and show it to my face like, we're sorry. We're sorry about the stuff we said. And I'm like, you know what? If you were a decent person, you wouldn't even show your face. You would just like be ashamed in silence away from me, knowing that you're a piece of shit, without trying to convince me that you deserve my forgiveness or something. Like, why are you even trying to convince me that I should be your friend now? And it's just weird. And now, because they lied to the Korean government about this too, which is because they got so crazy, because everybody was under the assumption, nobody could tell that they're going through psychosis until the people who actually genuinely believe this started seeing hallucinations, right? They're hearing things, they're seeing things that weren't there. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you believe something that's not true. Which is the fact that I'm a sex offender. That's not true. And everyone thought that there was something weird about me because they're like, oh, how come you're a sex offender but you're a virgin and you're such a good person? And I'm like, you know the game, two truths and a lie? Yeah, it's like that. It's like, okay, maybe one of the things that you said is just false and some idiots cooked it up because they owe me a lot of money. Because they wanted to slander me and libel me, and they've been at it for years trying to convince the general population that there's something wrong with me because they're inbred. That's why. Maybe that's why. You know, maybe because they didn't want to lose the money that they stole. So if they could convince everyone that it's their things, then they don't have to give it back. Maybe that's why. You know, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. And then they're like, oh, so like, how come like you didn't like try to stand up for yourself or defend yourself? You didn't even tell us. And I'm like, you're telling me that I have to take that amount of time out of my life to talk to a complete stranger about the situation that they have nothing to do with, just so that they can know what's going on in my life, even though they're not even my friend. And I don't even know them, and I don't know them through work either. So I'm supposed to do that. I'm supposed to take my personal time out of my personal life to explain to a complete stranger what's going on. Because that's my job, right? That's my duty as a citizen, is to go to every citizen and tell them exactly what's going on. Because I'm a sex offender, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not a sex offender. I don't know which idiot would believe that. The actual people who were sex offenders that they did believe were the 3 people that were in the foster family, which is Susan, Shawn, and Tiffany. They are legitimate sex offenders. But they believe that those people were innocent and that I was a sex offender. And I'm like, yeah, it goes to show what kind of a moron you are. And they're like, yeah. Oh, and then they start making up rumors about how I'm an undercover cop or something. I'm like, how am I an undercover cop? So you're saying I'm willingly living on the streets, eating food bank food and getting diarrhea from sick food that they're giving out at the shelters and sleeping at the shelters because I'm an undercover cop trying to convict innocent people, even though that's what the cops here are doing, except they're not living on the streets, they're living at their house that they stole from the natives. Yeah, they're squatting, but like, oh yeah, so I'm a cop for doing that, right? I'm like, yeah, because I'm getting paid a salary for this. That's why. And they thought that it was okay to steal from me, rape me, molest me, and yell obscenities at me because they believed, right? Because everything they believe in is true and everything they do is right because they're very good people with values and standards, right? They've been living by those values and standards for their entire life. That's how they got on those values and standards. It's not just something they concocted up one day. They woke up and they're like, you know what, from today I have values now. And then they just decided to behave as if they did have values. It's not that. No, they've been doing that for years, and they're good people and they know what's going on, and that's why they had the right to do all those horrible things and steal all my things. And the fact that I didn't stand up for myself or tell them that I wasn't actually a sex offender, because I didn't even know that's what people were accusing me of. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? Because it was completely like out of the ballpark, right? It's not even real. Like, it's like, okay, here's the reality, and then the things that they're talking about is like the stuff that they see on TV. Right? And I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to convince a bunch of crazy people what's real and also cure the mental illness. That's my job? What am I, a psychiatrist? Jesus. It's like an uphill battle with these people, and I'm like, obviously I'm not going to do any of that. How is it my responsibility because you're an idiot? Do I look like your mom? And then they're like, oh, how come like you didn't tell us and blah 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 blah. And now they're like following me, harassing me, stalking me. Some of them actually have figured it out on their own that they were lied to after harassing me for months on end, right? After testing everything, right? They're like, oh shit, I was wrong. And then they're like, oh, you're gonna forgive me, right? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And I'm like, because that's how people forgive each other. Right? You're just gonna bother that person relentlessly for no fucking reason, say all these fucking bullshit that doesn't even make any sense, and then at the end you're like, oh, I'm sorry, can you forgive me? Can we be friends now? Do you wanna go on a date? That's how that works, right? Because that works in real life. And you're not a piece of shit for doing that. You're definitely a good person, and everyone can see that, and you deserve my forgiveness. That's what that is, right? They're insane. And they're calling me the crazy one. I'm like, I'm not even gonna argue with that. Like, I just leave. Because they're gonna have a mental breakdown. They're gonna start yelling at me. They're gonna try to convince me that it's not their fault. And I'm like, I never even said anything to begin with. I don't care whose fault it is. I'm just gonna go. And then they follow me around trying to convince me that it's not their fault. And I'm like, why do you care what I think if you're telling me I'm that piece of shit? Right? If you're telling me I'm that horrible of a person, then why do you care about my opinion? It makes no sense to me. I don't know what that guy's doing there, just staring at me. Oh, maybe he needs to use a charger too. Probably that's why. Yeah, but I'm just like, what the fuck are they even talking about? And I'm like, yeah, so I'm supposed to like you now after all of that? They're in complete denial of what they did too, which is the funny part. They're like, no, I didn't do that. That wasn't me. That was you. And I'm like, no, that wasn't me. That was 100% you. And they're like, they're regressing. Some of them actually have regressed to the age that's like 12 years old. Like, they're throwing tantrums as a 3-year-old, and then their logic is like, social logic is that of a 12-year-old because of the trauma that they're facing, right? Because of what they did. And then now some of them are hallucinating because they genuinely believed what they were told, which were just complete bullshit. And they knew it was wrong. And honestly, they're saying everything to cover it up, but it was based out of racial discrimination. Because it was only white people who were stalking me and harassing me relentlessly. And some Chinese people, but they at least had the decency to do it behind my back and behind closed doors. Okay, they weren't actually actively on the street following me from place to place, city to city, trying to convince me that I'm the piece of shit when I haven't even seen them before in my life. And I have never even talked about them. And they're trying to convince me that I'm the racist. And I'm like, how am I the racist if you're refusing to give me my EI, any employment or housing because I'm not white? And that's, again, that's the police's logic saying, oh, you can't exist because you're fake. You know why? Because white girls aren't like you. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm not a white girl. Like, how is that hard to comprehend? They're like, you know what? White girls are better than you. And you're better than the white girls, which means you're fake. And I'm like, have you ever sat down to consider maybe you're just a huge piece of shit and nothing you say makes sense because it's just bullshit? And they're like, no, that's impossible. Like, I'm a good person. I have like 3 PhDs. I'm a doctor, okay? Like, I went to, like, the space. Like, I know NASA staff by heart. Like, they know me personally. Like, you don't know. And I'm like, yeah, that's when they start lying and spewing out more bullshit, right? And then that's when I leave, and that's when they follow me around trying to convince me that they're good people. And I'm like, you keep telling me I'm a bitch, I'm a cunt, I'm a huge piece of shit. Then why do you care what I think about you? It just doesn't make sense. And I tell them to go away, and they're like, no, you can't tell me to go away. Like, we have to be friends now. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, and they're like, I don't even know. I don't think they're aware of the things that they're saying. I think they think that they're being friendly. Like, in their minds, they come off as a very nice, pleasant, friendly person, which is what I am, or which is what I'm doing. And they think because I'm behaving that way, that means it's because they're behaving friendly. The only reason I'd be friendly to them is if they were friendly to me first. Otherwise, there's no reason for me to be friendly to them. I'm like, that's not how that works. Like, yeah, I get that in your culture or wherever hellhole you crawled out of, that's what it's like there. But that's not like that anywhere else. Honestly, nobody's actually like that. Except for maybe you, because you're a racist weirdo. And they're like, no, you can't call me a racist, that's bad. And I'm like, what do you want me to call you then? Oh my god. If you're not a racist and you're doing everything a racist does, and what is it that I should call you? The not racist? Then I'd be lying to your face. That's just insulting. Like, yeah, these people are insane. They completely lost touch with reality. They don't even know what's up and what's down. And they keep telling me that I need to marry them. And I'm like, what the fuck? And now they're embarrassed because they realize their mistake, right? And they're like, well, I'm so sorry that I did that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know why you're even apologizing. It's not gonna change anything. Like, why do you even bother? Why'd you even bother tracking me down? I'm not gonna change my mind because you apologized to my face. How's that even an apology? Oh, saying I'm sorry is an apology? What, you're gonna undo all of that damage by telling every single person you told that rumor to that you actually lied and you didn't actually know what you're talking about. And then undo all the damage, how it prevented me from finding employment. You're gonna go to all those employers that you've affected with your lies and your bullshit and then convince them to employ me because you lied the first time, and now they should trust your word after you lied to their face by hiring me, who has nothing to do with you. Right? That's what you want? Is that what you're gonna do? That's impossible. You're literally telling me impossible things. And they're like, no, I said I'm sorry. That's an apology. And I'm like, that's not an apology, first of all. And second of all, I don't want anything to do with you. You've already had your fun doing that. You thought you were being a cool person. It's fine. People make mistakes all the time. I mean, your birth was a very good indicator that somebody made a mistake somewhere. I mean, I'm sorry that your feelings are hurt, honestly. Like, I'm sorry that you're stupid. You shouldn't be stupid, but you are because of your parents. But, like, I don't understand how it's my fault now that I have to train you to be a decent person so we can be friends, when clearly you didn't want to be my friend if you did all those things. That's how you tell somebody you don't want them in your life. So I don't understand what that was even about, but please leave me alone. And then they understand. They're like, yeah, I get that. Like, if somebody did that to me, I wouldn't want to be their friend either. And I'm like, yeah, so leave me alone. And then they just keep following me around. They keep harassing me. They keep trying to convince me that it's not actually their fault. And they're like, you know what? If they said this to you, you would believe it too. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't, because I'm not an idiot and I'm not naive. And I'm not a fool like you. Why do you think I'm in this situation? Because they're doing everything they can, pulling out every trick of the book to get me to trust them and get me to believe what they're saying. When I'm like, you want me to believe all this bullshit that's coming out of your mouth? Can you make at least one sentence legitimate? Maybe then I'll listen and actually consider your opinion to be worth validating. But, like, apart from that, like, how am I supposed to even take you seriously? It's like, oh, so you, like, this is, like, the part that's most frustrating. And it's like, okay, so, like, what do you want me to say? Like, you tell me that you don't want to be my friend and you think I'm a piece of shit and I don't even know you. And you hear all these rumors that are completely unfounded. And clearly they're just rumors spread by a bunch of jealous people who didn't like the fact that I had a clean legal status, because only people who are allowed to have a clean legal status are white people. Everyone else has to be a criminal or retarded if they're foreigners, as in they're not white. They also forget to mention that this is America. I'm not living in Europe, by the way. This is in Canada, North America. Okay, if I was experiencing this in Europe, I would take that as a sign to pack up and go home. I'm like, yeah, this is their ancestral home. Like, this is what they were like. I mean, I just made a mistake of thinking I could fit in here. Clearly I can't. So I'm just gonna leave. Except this isn't their home either. They forget that they're immigrants here too. They think they're the special ones, you know, they're exempt from the immigrant status because they said so. Also, if you want to ever be an immigrant or like a citizen of America, what you gotta do is come to America and then go to the British embassy if you're in North America and get a citizenship certificate from them. And if you're in the South Americas, I think you have to go to the Portuguese embassy or the Spanish embassy, and they will grant you a citizenship. And it would say you are an American citizen of whatever land division that they've decided on. No, don't go to the natives. Like, they're not gonna give you the citizenship. You have to go to the British one for the North American citizenship, or the Spanish or the Portuguese for the South American. Because it's their land. That's how you get the immigration status here. That's how you become a citizen here. And that kind of stuff is like, you know, people don't just make that up, okay? It's just not made up. Like, it's not like laws are made up. Okay, these are legitimate things. There's a guy in front of me, he was crying about it before, and now he's trying to prove a point that he's not a jackass, and I should apologize to him for calling him out on his bullshit where it's affected me, where I'm on the streets when I don't have to be. That's, again, the reason why they put me here, they're forcibly having me live here, is because they wanted people to judge me, right? Due to their prejudice and discrimination. They thought I was a sex offender, and that's why I got kicked out. And I'm like, that's not what happened. And if you believe that, then you're a horrible person. And that was what their plan was. And a lot of people bought it. They believed it. They're like, you're telling me that you're the only sane person in this country and everyone else is just an insane idiot. And I'm like, have you ever sat down and thought about the entire government of America? North and South America. So this is run by the British Parliament, which have nothing to do with the Native Americans. I don't even know what language they speak, to be honest. They're not telling anyone. They're not telling anyone about their culture. They're not telling anyone about their language. They live on their own separate reserves, and I've never even been to a reserve. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're like. I've never met a native. And then they're like, yeah, but like, it's the British land. So I'm in England? No, you're in America, but British. And I'm like, how does that make sense? I'm in America, but it's England. And you're telling me these people know what they're doing. And then they're like, no, if you go to South America, then you're gonna have to go speak to the Portuguese and the Spanish, and they're European. And I'm like, I don't understand. So you're telling me that there was literally nobody in America. Nobody lived here. Okay, no one ever lived in this continent, this huge chunk of land. It was just all animals. And then the European explorers first discovered this land, and then that's when it became populated. There was no humans on this land ever before the Europeans. Is that what you're saying? Like, nobody thinks this is ridiculous. I mean, I knew this when I was a kid, that they were talking so much fucking shit. I was tired of it, and I was like, how the hell am I supposed to do anything if I'm a child? I don't even have legal status here. And the minute that I was legal, they were trying to fuck up my legal status, and I'm like, what's the fucking problem? What, because I'm better than you and I'm not white? Oh, it's almost as if the racial ethnicities make no difference in a person. Wow, it's like that doesn't even matter. I'm like, oh my god. And then, fucking weird. They like freaking jerk off to me, and they're like, they're the ones at fault, they're the ones in the wrong, and then they're trying to convince everyone and me that I'm the one in the wrong, that I'm the one at fault. And I'm like, if that was true, then why is it that you're having mental health problems? It's just like, okay, you know what? I gave up on them a long time ago, honestly. I'm like, these people are completely useless. They can't even work as whores. Like, they won't even work for money because they're stupid, right? And they just literally, they don't even know how to do anything right. And they're like, their moral compass is completely skewed or broken. Their instincts are not there. They have no instincts. You know how people have the 4 Fs in their brain? Yeah, it doesn't exist. Their lizard brain is dead. They can't survive on their own. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then they're like trying to tell me that I'm the antisocial one. And I'm like, you just figured out that I'm not a sex offender because a bunch of fucking morons, bunch of gang members decided to convince everyone that I'm a sex offender so that they don't have to pay back the money that they owe me, right? It sounds like a classic con, right? And they're like, oh yeah, we went along with a con, but now we realize our mistake, so we're gonna pray to God, we're gonna go to church, pray, and ask the pastor for forgiveness, and then you have to be friends with us now. And I'm like, at no point, nobody thinks this sounds insane. Like, this isn't how the world works. And they're like, oh, how do you know how the world works? Who do you think you are? And I'm like, do you even speak your native tongue? Do you? Well, you say you're French, but do you even speak French? You say you're Italian, do you even speak Italian? No? Yeah, I think that's pathetic. You've lost your sense of just lost a huge chunk of yourself. Oh, I have to put on more lip balm. But yeah, I'm like, I can't trust people who can't even speak their native tongue. Oh yeah, I've met so many Koreans. I've met so many Koreans that they can't even speak Korean, and I'm like, how are you Korean if you can't even speak Korean? You might as well be a garbage piece of shit. It's probably why they kicked your parents out, because they're shitty people. They don't want them in your country, and they're like, here, you can have these people, and they're like, why would anybody want these people in their country? I want to kick them out. I'm like, why are you giving me your garbage? The fuck were you want me to do with this? Sell them as whores? Okay, fine, I guess. That's what I would do. That's probably why everyone here is a whore, except for me, who's not a whore, because you can't pay me enough money to do this fucking bullshit they're asking me. So many guys have come up to me, they're like, if you suck my dick, if you marry me, you'll have a place to stay. And I'm like, how about I kill myself first? How about that? I will literally stab myself in the eye with a dirty HIV needle before I marry you for a place to stay. Literally, like, no thank you. And they like don't take that lightly. They're like, how can you refuse me? You're saying you'd rather be homeless than get married to me. And I'm like, yeah, because you knew that I was gonna be in this situation, and you waited until I was homeless because you thought that was a good time to ask me, right? They're like, oh, you know what, why don't I just wait until she's completely desperate for a place to stay, and then she'll freaking marry me? Because that's how people get married, right? Honestly, there was a comedian named Ali Wong. She made a joke about this, and she was like, oh, you know what, you know how you get married? You like manipulate the person into being married to you. You like force them to look at the ring that you want to buy all the fucking time. There's a lesbian who's been doing this to me. She was taking it seriously. I'm like, yeah, she's a comic, stand-up comic. She's joking. Clearly she's joking. That's why it's funny. That's why I laugh at it. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking stupid. Who the hell would do that? She took the stand-up seriously. She thought it was word for word what people did and it would work on people. And I'm like, you're insane. And then she's like, yeah, you like take a picture of the ring that you want, and then you get everyone to just send your significant other the picture of the ring, and then they'll get the message that they should buy you that ring. And then you like make them hate themselves and humiliate them until they have no one else around them. They have no friends whatsoever, and they have no choice but to marry you in order to survive. That's how people get married. And I'm like, yeah, she's joking, because that's how people go to prison. Okay, that's why it's funny. And like, she didn't get that at all. She's like, why would you take that seriously? She's doing a comic stand-up special. She's clearly lying and kidding around. Like, I don't understand. And they're harassing me about that too. It's like, how come it's not working on you? And I'm like, did you not understand the entire point of the stand-up? She's making fun of convicts. She thinks they're fucking stupid because they do shit like that, and they expect the entire world to forgive them after. And they think that they should get married after, and they have human rights after what they did, and bothering and harassing innocent people and causing them to have like anxiety disorders and mental health problems. Yeah. And they're like, guess who? They can't even live on their own because no one's willing to hire them because of the stuff they did. So guess what? The prison's run by the tax money, the taxpayers. Taxes pay for that. If they have to be on OW or food stamps, again, taxes pay for that. So she's saying, I fucking hate these people. Look, I'll describe it in a way that they describe it, and you'll find it hilarious. And that's what she did, and that's how she made her comic stand-up special. It's funny. I think it's hilarious. I'm like, obviously no one's actually taking that seriously.